Saturday Get Out the Vote event hosted by Vice President Kamala Harris became a little bit more controversial than intended when two women wearing hijabs were reportedly not allowed to enter by campaign officials. In a video which surfaced and went viral on X, a campaign officer is seen stopping the women from entering the event despite having an invite. Let's take a look.
Because we are choosing who's going in and out of the event. I'm sorry.
Why are you choosing us not to go in when we have an invite?
Right, you specifically singled us out.
That's racist. Is it because we have hijabs?
I'm happy to talk to
someone
else.
It is, because that's clearly, I was afraid of this. That's
you
crazy.
singled
That's
us
not,
out of everybody.
Isn't that against Democrats? Whole campaign? That's very Islamophobic. That's very racist.
I'm sorry.
Are you? You guys come out.
Keep coming through.
We have an invite.
You're part of the LGBT community too, right? And you're still going to kick us out?
Come on through.
Are you serious?
That's crazy. Wow. Now I really won't vote for Biden and Harris. That's crazy.
Now, some viewers call the supposed behavior by the Harris campaign staff hypocritical and asked if it went against Democrats' whole campaign pitch.
As the video continued, the women chided the campaign official, asking him if this is what democracy was all about. Take a look.
They're racist, Islamophobic, obviously.
And you're being racist.
Get a ticket or something?
They're disinviting us because we have hijabs on our heads. That's why, people. This is not a democracy. This is disgusting.
We're being singled out.
Obviously, we're the only hijabi women. That's kind of clear. They're disinviting us because we have scarves on our heads.
Literally.
That's disgusting. When we have an invitation, just like everyone else, what is the problem?
Now, a spokesman for the Biden campaign said on Twitter, quote, "These individuals were among the group of people not allowed to attend Saturday's event after previously disrupting and shutting down events with Democratic elected officials." No response from the women involved to that yet. It's interesting, though, because this has become, protested events have become an enormous problem from the Biden administration. He literally cannot seem to go anywhere without getting disrupted. So it's hardly the evidence of, I think, individuals who are unusually disruptive or trying to just harangue the campaign out of nowhere. It is the fact that an enormous majority of Joe Biden's own base strongly objects to how he is handling the crisis in Gaza. And so NBC did some reporting about this just a few days ago in an article called "Biden Team Ramps Up Strategy for Dealing with More Protests from the Left and the Right." It alludes to the right, I think perhaps in a kind of media sleight of hand to make the audience dislike these protesters. Nothing in this article is about right-wing protesters. It's all people from within Biden's own party who are protesting about the siege of Gaza. Yeah. And in this article, there's an interesting admission. So you might say, well, people who have disrupted in the past shouldn't be admitted again. But in this article, it says that volunteers at events are being trained to keep an eye out for potential protesters, not people who have protested before, but potential protesters going on to say that they are not able to stop them from attending. These women were stopped from attending. At an event last Tuesday in Virginia, for instance, volunteers noted attendees with pins alluding to their message on the Israel-Hamas war, which allowed officials to be on alert. That seems to be an acknowledgement that Biden campaign staffers are looking at people entering events for any indicia that they have solidarity with Palestine. And how could you not see hijabi women as in that group and say, and basically this is an admission, is it not? That campaign staffers are being asked to eyeball folks and come to conclusions about what people's politics are and then perhaps deny them admission.
Right, so I went looking for more information on this and I looked and I Googled it and Kamala Harris did give a speech that was interrupted by protesters, so then I was saying, oh, I guess they did get in and they did interrupt. No, that was a different, totally different occurrence.
Yeah.
Now, look, I frankly find it perfectly plausible that those people did interrupt some previous event, and that's why they were being prevented from entering. That's not a crime. That's fine, I guess, for a political official giving a speech to try to manage it in some way so that they won't be heckled by their own ostensible supporters. So I'm not like so outraged by what happened. They weren't abused or mistreated. They were just told they couldn't go in because they're alleging they had some prior history of interrupting the protests. But you're right that it is reflective of a much broader problem for Biden and Harris, that you want fired up, you want people like this in the event fired up to cheer you and to make it seem like you have all these crowds and all these supporters. And the fact that people, at least on the Democratic side, who are most likely to be activists and campaigning and out there and sharing messaging about your campaign on social media, to be the real fired up cheerleader type people, those people are the most dissatisfied with the administration of all within the coalition. So it's going to be a huge problem. It calls to mind, failing LBJ, toward the end of his president, starts running for re-election and then doesn't because he's doing so poorly at the height of unpopularity, the Vietnam War. The only place he could give speeches were like military areas where there were going to be no protesters.
Where they cannot object.
Right, because it would be shouted down by college students everywhere else.
Yeah.
And then we ended up electing Richard Nixon.
Yeah, I mean, this is really
Sound
real.
Familiar?
If the Biden administration is in a position where they're saying, we are going to, and again, this is just from this NBC News report that I'm getting this idea that staffers are eyeballing folks and trying to predict whether or not they're going to be a problem for him inside. That means not just profiling folks who are visibly Muslim, who overwhelmingly object to the siege of Gaza. It also means overwhelmingly profiling people who are young. That means overwhelmingly profiling including young Jewish Americans. That means overwhelmingly profiling Black Americans.
Can
Who
you
is
imagine?
going to be left?
Excuse me, you can't come in here. No, I am Kamala Harris. Oh, excuse me, come right this way.
She might be over the age cutoff of people who are invested in this. And also, I mean, it is. She's obviously not an Indian national, but it is interesting that India is very, very, very supportive of Israel in this and other things. But so it cuts both ways. But this is not the kind of problem that they're going to be able to, bouncer their way out of. And in fact, this is just adding another layer of bad optics because unlike the Republican Party, the Democratic Party has shielded itself from all kinds of accusations that it doesn't follow through in its commitments to historically marginalized people because it says at the end of the day, at least we're not discriminatory. At least we treat everybody equally. At least we care about Black and brown people and gay people and everybody else. Look how inclusive our party is. And now you're getting optics and you're getting reporting. It's not just the optics of this given situation. It's reporting that says Biden staffers are eyeballing folks to get any indication that they are pro-Palestine before they're admitted into these kinds of events. And the implications of that, given how this is breaking down on racial and ethnic line and religious lines, is really galling. Not to mention, by the way, that there was the event a few days ago, maybe it was the end of last week, after UAW President Shawn Fain's endorsement of Joe Biden, where it was widely reported that pro-Palestine protesters had been dragged out of that event in Biden's speech as well. What was underreported is that those protesters were also UAW members. So are we now saying that members of one's own union aren't able to articulate their preferences at an event after your own union president has come out in an endorsement of the ceasefire and then flipped and endorsed the guy who's very much anti-ceasefire? I mean, all of this is getting so messy, and the press really isn't helping to clarify who is involved and what's at stake in this coverage. But the fundamental issue is that Biden's own policies make it so that he's going to have to return to a 2020 era style of campaigning and perhaps stay in the basement.
I'm trying to think of what the equivalent is on the Trump side. I'm like, I can't imagine like anti-Trump activists showing up to like a Trump rally, trying to sneak in to heckle it. The perceived enemy protester type people at the Trump rallies was just the media
cameraman
itself. The most unpopular people, the people getting booed, are the mainstream journalists covering it.
That is an interesting question. There, in all of the kind of liberal objections to Trump over the years, I don't remember there ever being an effort to appeal to him. I think the difference is, on some level, there is at least the perception that Biden can be shamed into changing his behavior. I don't know that liberals believe that Trump could be shamed into changing his behavior.
Even trying to shame is engaging with him is normalizing him, and that's the greatest crime of all. They're just going to pretend he doesn't exist. They're going to ignore him. I mean, the media is going to do this until he's president again.
I also do wonder if people are worried about what the reaction from the crowd would be if they did that at a Trump rally.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
We won't get into that any further right now. More Rising after this.